Oluwadare, it's good to have you on the news, and a very good afternoon to you. Let's just start with you helping us to just outline the specific constitutional provisions and international treaties that SERAP believes that the 2019 lawful interception of communications regulations violates, and why do they enable mass surveillance in this case?
Yeah, thank you very much. The regulations in itself, both in its wordings and the propensity for misuse, which again we are seeing with the recent case of the former Kaduna State Governor, infringes on a lot of rights. The right to privacy, for instance, in Section 37 of the Constitution, and the right of freedom of expression in Section 39. And there are a lot of the ways the regulations could be misused to clamp down on free speech. We've seen what the government has done with laws as harmless as the Cyber Crimes Act. So what the government can do with these kind of regulation, of course, it's more broader in that sense.
And how does SERAP view the recent allegations by Nasir El-Rufai regarding a phone call interceptions that's carried out by the NSA, Nuhu Ribadu? And do these claims exemplify the risks posed by the current regulations?
And that is just an example, because that has come out. We do not know presently how far those regulations have been used and who has been targeted and who is a victim. And I bet there have been lots of victims already. It is only because this came out, because of the political figures involved, that it even became a matter of public discourse. And your guess is as good as mine as to the extent to which these kind of regulations have been used, and given the propensity for misuse, with the way even the wordings of the defects that we've identified in the regulations, it can only be we can only say that it might have been used unlawfully for a long range of reasons over time.
And what key elements of judicial oversight and transparency would SERAP recommend in any new legislative process for a surveillance framework for a country like Nigeria?
I think one of the things that stand out will be the ability of authorized agencies in the act, which includes the Office of the NSA and the DSS, to conduct what they termed unlawful intercepts under the regulations without a warrant. I would think that is quite dangerous, particularly given that what amounts those agencies to lawfully intercept without a warrant will be matters of national security or urgency, which is not clearly spelled out or laid out. But much more importantly, the use of whatever information they gather should also be subject to judicial oversight, which is why we think it is not enough that even though the regulations provide for lawful intercept with a warrant, on the other hand, it also provides for lawful intercept without a warrant. And there is even provisions for when authorized agencies under the regulations that intercept communications then go to court to regularize that unlawful intercept, as it were, by getting a court order after the act has been done. These, I think, it's very dangerous, given the nature of the precedent we've seen in Nigeria and the lack of guardrails in that particular regulation. The propensity for misuse is very high.
And in what ways do these regulations threaten Nigeria's freedom of expression? I mean, for our viewers at home, and most importantly, privacy rights, which SERAP seems to be hampering on. And how has SERAP documented any real-world cases of abuse besides the examples of Nuhu Ribadu and Nasir El-Rufai?
We do not have any real-world case of the misuse now. That is why we highlighted the case of the former Kaduna State Governor. And this only came out because of the political issues involved between the parties. This regulation was passed in 2019. Of course, it would have been used over time, and that is one of the things we need to look at in this advocacy. How has it been used? Who are the targets? Has it helped to fight insecurity, for instance? And how have they been used? And these are the pertinent questions we need to ask now, because the wordings of this regulation in itself is problematic. And then the propensity for misuse is multiplied by the antecedent of Nigerian security forces when we look at how they fared over the years, particularly from 1999.
And what immediate steps then should President Tinubu take beyond withdrawal of this regulation to safeguard citizens' rights in the communication sector?
It's very simple. For such a regulation that gives wide powers and the effect it might have on citizens' rights and freedoms, we think ideally this should even be a regulation. It should be a substantive legislation. We should go through the whole lawmaking process of the National Assembly. And that doesn't mean that organizations like the NCC cannot make subsidiary regulations. But given the purport of this regulation and its implication on human rights, it should be a law. It should pass through the National Assembly and become a substantive law, which would believe the process of lawmaking will make sure that the laws that will come out would have gone to the rigor of public hearing and the likes, and then it will be a law that would not only protect the right, not only enhance the rights of the ability of security agencies to lawfully intercept for national security purposes, or also provide that much needed guardrails to protect citizens against misuse by law enforcement agencies.
Right, I mean, because misuse is there as a word, because if you're going to use this to intercept, say, terrorists, for example, or monitor them, that's a completely different conversation. But then how do you blur, when then does the line blur in this situation, and what are the guardrails to make sure that, you know, they don't blur the right lines and that there's no misuse or abuse of this regulation? Well, only time will tell, and we do hope that this will pick momentum in it as you continue to push for more privacy and safeguarding of Nigeria's privacy. I must say thank you, Kolawole, for taking out the time to join us. Kolawole Oluwadare, the Executive Director with SERAP. Once again, thank you.